Welcome to another episode of the FitnessFest Podcast. My name is Tyler Valencia, and I'm the president of KIPS and Time to Train Fitness. We got a great one for fitness pros out there. We have Keli Roberts. She's going to share her backstory, share how she got to where she is now. She's got stops with consulting with big brands, owning her own personal training business, and doing all of this at the same time, which is what we all do. We all hustle in the industry. We all try to make a living, and we all try to help others. So first of all, Keli, thank you for coming on the FitnessFest Podcast.
Tyler, it's so great to be with you. I'm excited.
Yes. Let's kick it off. First question that everybody gets asked. Can you give a little bit about your story in the fitness industry and a little bit of background on yourself?
Well, I'm Australian. I started in the fitness industry in 1986. I had originally worked as a model in Europe, in Italy and Paris and Switzerland. And I had a raging eating disorder. I had anorexia and bulimia. And when I came back from Europe, I was just fed up with modeling, and I was fed up with being sick. Mm-hmm. And so I quit modeling and got into recovery and gained a lot of weight. I went from a size like 102 to a size 14 in about 9 months. And I didn't want to diet. So I went to the gym and took an aerobics class and hated it. And I was like, why is she smiling? What have we got to smile about? And I was so broke at the time, I didn't own a pair of athletic shoes. I was in bare feet, and she yelled at me for being in bare feet. Oh. I guess I was ahead of my time. So I went to the pool and I started swimming, and I didn't have a car, so I used to walk to the pool. It was a 45-minute walk. I'd swim for 15 minutes and walk home. And after several months, I lost a lot of weight and I got really fit. I started running to the pool. I quit smoking and started running to the pool. And then I did an Olympic distance triathlon, and I just fell in love with fitness. I fell absolutely in love with being fit. Mm-hmm. It changed my life. But then the pool closed because it was winter. It was an outdoor pool, and I started going to the gym. And this time I took an aerobics class from someone who I really liked, and it clicked. I fell in love with fitness, and I got down to a size 4. I was the healthiest I'd been in many, many years. So I went back to modeling, and I got fired from a job for being too big. And I was like, you know what? This is not for me. If this is how women are supposed to look, and I'm healthy and fit for the first time in my life, and I'm not good enough, then I don't want to be an example to women. Mm-hmm. So I quit modeling. I went into my modeling agency the next day and said I'd rather clean toilets and waitress than be a model. So I started going to the gym a lot because I had all this time on my hands. And one of the instructors there said, hey, you should become an aerobics instructor. So this was 1986. I took the Australian course, which was then called ACHPA, the Australian Council for Health, Education and Recreation. It was a 2-week course, a 3-hour exam, and 40 hours face-to-face work. Wow. And I became an aerobics instructor. And, in 1990, I came to the States because I wanted to do the ACE certification. It was then called IDEA Foundation. It was before it was ACE. Mm-hmm. You're familiar with the history of ACE. It was IDEA Foundation before it was ACE. And I did the ACE personal trainer certification. I ended up teaching at Voight Fitness and Dance in 1990. And I started my own personal training business in 1991 and ended up with a schedule of clients who were all celebrities. I ended up with a celebrity clientele. I was training Cher, Kirstie Alley, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Jennifer Grey, Faye Dunaway, Russell Crowe. I had a celebrity clientele, and it was at a very interesting time. I did a fitness video with Cher. I did a step video with Cher. Mm-hmm. And that kind of launched my career because I was on the video with her, teaching her. And it was the first time a celebrity had ever done a video like that where it was being taught by a trainer. And CBS Fox, who released the video, received so much fan mail about me. I got my own series of videos through them, and it was a very big deal. I did an infomercial, and I got my own step. There was the Keli Roberts step trainer, and I got into doing what I really wanted to do, which was teaching at conferences, because it gave me an in. It got my foot in the door. In fact, my first convention was IDEA, and I had 500 people in the room.
What?
First session. It was terrifying. Terrifying, absolutely just gut-wrenchingly terrifying. But it launched my career, and ever since then, I've been doing exactly what I want, which is having a personal training business, teaching continuing education, and consulting for companies.
I love it. I love it. And first, I got to say thank you for sharing some of those sensitive items. I know that sometimes those can be difficult. So sharing that on a podcast is great. I think it really shows tremendous growth and understanding of yourself and all those items. So thank you for that. And the second thing that I have to point out, because it made me laugh and think of past episodes and past ones, I feel like the guests that we've had, and this is why I feel like I laughed at it, was that they say, oh yeah, I attended my first aerobics class and I loved it. So I liked how you said I attended my first one and I hated it.
Oh, hated it. I couldn't wait for it to finish. At the time I was a smoker, so I was huffing and puffing. I was overweight. I was deconditioned. I didn't have shoes on. The girl who was teaching the class yelled at me for not having shoes. So and she didn't know why I didn't have shoes. I was living on welfare at the time. I didn't have any money for shoes. I'd gotten in on a free pass at the gym to see if maybe I would spend my welfare money on a gym membership. I was extremely poor. I was earning $98 a week on welfare. My rent was $48 a week. I was living in a bed sit, which I had a shared bathroom. I had a one bedroom, with a tiny little bar fridge and a stove. I was living a very simple life. I was living on brown rice, carrots, green apples, and tofu. Coffee was a luxury, and this person yelled at me for not having shoes. It's an important lesson, I think, that instructors can learn from, because you just never know why people are doing what they're doing in your class. I think we need compassionate.
Yeah, the empathy of instructors. I feel like that's such a big key, because I think that oftentimes we just believe everybody likes exercise, or why doesn't everybody have this kind of equipment or gear or outfits or whatever it might be. So I think it's very important for that, and something that I got to make sure I don't forget to ask you about, because it popped up as you mentioned the requirements for, at the time, and I think you mentioned it was 1990 when you got your certification through in Australia, the requirements for it. So just to hear all those requirements back then, I can only imagine what they are now compared to the States even. I feel like that's even more than what's required here. What do you think about the requirements to become an instructor these days, and the educational requirements, but even the hands-on components? Because that's something that, pointing out what was going on in the 90s in Australia, even compared to now, it's even drastically different.
Yeah, there's not a lot of hands-on work, that's for sure. The course I did, Lexi Williams was my instructor, and Lexi's brilliant. It was a brilliant presenter herself. And it was a 2-week, 8 to 5, 14-day course. And then I was supervised for 40 hours to get registered. It was really thorough. In fact, when I did the AFA certification, when I came here, I was super disappointed. Because it said it had a practical element, and it's like I could have done that in my sleep compared to what I'd been through in Australia. The Australian certification was phenomenal. It was great. It was really thorough. It set me up. I did my ACE personal training certification before there was a manual. So I'm gold personal trainer certified. They just gave you a reading list. You had to go to the library. This was before the internet. And I absolutely aced that exam. I got 98% in that exam without a manual.
Nice. Hearing about these, and especially the hands-on component, because that's something that I've discussed in other podcast episodes as areas that are lacking for certifications, especially in a hands-on environment. Being a personal trainer, Group X, that type of experience is so critical for someone on their first day. But then thinking about their continuation in the industry, what do you think would be a great addition for, let's just start off with Group X. What do you think would be a good idea for certifications? Would it be adding maybe a video component or maybe a hands-on component where they have to do 200 hours, something along those lines?
I think a video component would be a good start, but I think something that's live where you actually get interaction and feedback from someone, because we got a lot of feedback in the course. We had to practice teaching and there was a lot of feedback. They told us what we were doing wrong. And that type of hands-on work was just invaluable to me because it really set me up to be successful as an instructor. Yeah. That's really lacking. I think the theory part of it that you have to learn to be an instructor here is excellent. It's really solid. All the exercise physiology, injury prevention, all of the theory is really foundationally strong. Just the practical, especially for personal training, is really missing.
Yeah, it's interesting. Timing wise, as we're recording this, earlier today, I had read a tweet from one of my graduate professors. He is I forgot his exact title, but I think he's the performance coach for the Alabama football team. High level, very high level, considered one of the best with strength and conditioning. And he actually tweeted that he would rather hire someone, or he would hire someone. And he gave a kind of a ranking of what it would be. And the first thing was their educational background. And he specifically said not basing it off of certifications, because he knows that is sometimes the other way around these days, is that people look for certain certifications. But he didn't really give much of an explanation. It's a little tweet about it, but then he put after that experience and then other kinds of items. I'm forgetting it as I'm talking about it right now. But when I thought about it more, I thought about how with an educational background and the extensive work that goes into reading texts and manuals, all that kind of stuff, that you have that foundation that you're not going to get in other areas, but you could always learn through experience some of the other items, the items that we're talking about now, which are very important. And I think what comes to my mind now is how one of the first companies I owned was a boot camp company, and I had interns, and they were from the university that I attended, and they got a lot of hands-on work that helped them get full-time positions after they were done. And it's through that hands-on work that we're talking about now that can really push someone further and make them stand out at even a youngish time in their point in the industry. So it's always interesting to talk about that with fellow educators and what they think can help out with the industry in these areas, because we know that there's requirements for each position, but there's always areas that we can help them and hopefully help instructors stay in the industry longer. I think that's one of the things that's always the bottom line of is how can we help instructors stay in the industry longer? So Keli, let's move on to the next question for you about, and this is at the time of recording this, it's almost the end of July 2021. So it's always interesting to hear about instructors over the last year and a half-ish, what their jobs, how they adjusted, how their careers changed, those types of things. So Keli, can you give us a little insight over the last year and a half?
When everything shut down, I did a massive pivot, and I was very fortunate in that I applied for a government loan and got it. And so I was able to upgrade all my equipment. I got a good webcam. I got really good lighting. I got a new computer. I got some other equipment that I needed to be virtual. And I started doing a lot of virtual training. And I've still got clients in New York that I see virtually through Zoom. I started seeing a lot of my clients virtually. I got a lot of referrals, actually, and my personal training business flourished because people weren't going to the gym. I started a small group in a client's backyard, and they referred me to clients who referred me another client. So my personal training business really expanded, and I started doing I was doing things for Homeroom Fit. Twice a week I was doing an indoor cycling class for Homeroom Fit. And I'm still teaching 2 virtual classes a week for Breakthrough Fit Pros, which used to be a gym I taught at in Pasadena called Breakthrough Fitness. Mm-hmm. But they closed during the pandemic and went virtual. So I'm still doing classes for their active aging adults for Breakthrough Fit Pros. And I went all in. I just fully committed to being virtual, and it paid off.
Yeah, I think that's the area that instructors have to commit to, is the going all in. So hearing that you invested in the equipment, I can't tell you how many instructors I've spoken to or asked me for advice. And then when I give it to them about, okay, you gotta go to the next level with this equipment stuff. It's not cheap. And I sometimes relate it to the gear that you get for being an instructor. Like some of it, it's not apples to apples, but you have to go to the next level if you want to be a professional with it. It's the same concepts. You want to be a professional online fitness professional. So it's great to hear that you took off whether you were busy, because I will say, and I've heard it across the board with many of the people that come on the podcast, and you can see why, they're all pros, is that those that hustled during it, they made that commitment, really saw that growth with it. Mm-hmm. So Keli, can you also give now a little bit of background on your first position? What did you feel like really helped you grow with it, that first position that I believe you said you became an aerobics instructor? What do you feel like really helped get you your clients, helped you find new clients, or even get that referral business going?
I think when you're really passionate about what you do, you want to learn. I've always been incredibly curious. Mm-hmm. So I've, over the years really continued my education. I'm certified not only through ACE as a personal trainer, but also as a group fitness instructor, health coach. I'm American College of Sports Medicine exercise physiologist. I'm a precision nutrition level 1. Mm-hmm. I'm a cancer exercise specialist. I'm studying for my NASM corrective exercise specialist certification. After that, I'll do Pilates. I've been wanting to do Pilates forever, and I booked into a Pilates certification during the pandemic, but it canceled. So that kind of pushed that back a little bit. Mm-hmm. But I really believe you want to stay curious. And the more I know I don't know. I've continued to stay very hungry and fascinated by exercise physiology, kinesiology, biomechanics, and everything that goes with it. It fascinates me, and that's been good because it's made me continue my education, which has made me it's given me a lot of tools to work with. I work with a lot of very special populations, and post-cardiac rehab, Parkinson's, osteoporosis, hip replacements, knee replacements, shoulder replacements, Alzheimer's. So I work with some really complicated clients, but and cancer survivors. I have a couple of cancer survivors I work with. So, if you want to make yourself useful, get educated, learn, because people are a lot more savvy than you think. It's not just about having a pretty body and being young and cute. It's about being of service and being able to help your clients and make a difference in their lives. And in order to do that, you need to know what you're doing. So get educated. Yeah. And my passion for wanting to make a difference has always driven me towards wanting to learn more.
I love that. And I had that conversation today with somebody about the educational process, just watching others, learning more. And then the spin that I put on was that now you got to apply and make it your own, because you can watch other instructors, you can read textbooks, and you can get all this information. But once you fully can comprehend it and then make it your own, I feel like that's when you take that next jump. And taking that example to group exercise, we'll say, or even personal training, the ability to teach an exercise to somebody, whether the individual is an auditory learner or they're a visual learner, and being able to explain things in different ways so that even though this person might have picked it up already, or they already have done that exercise 1,000 times, you taught it in such a way that they were like, oh, wow, I never thought about that. I learned something new. Because I think you're spot on that these days clients they're a lot smarter. It's probably because they may have had another trainer, or they've already consumed information through social media. Definitely a possibility these days. And so you upping your game with education, it's so true that it really helps you take it to that next level. So I'll always love when somebody shares that they just always are on the hunt for more education, consuming more, and always just trying to learn. That's always one of my favorite parts of doing this podcast. So Keli, now let's hear a little bit more. I got to go back to all the celebrity clients. How did you get celebrity clients? That's always something I feel like personal trainers like, oh yeah, I'd love to have a celebrity client. How did that fall into your lap, or how did you start doing that?
I was teaching at Voight Fitness and Dance in West Hollywood, Los Angeles, and there were a lot of celebrities who were coming to my classes, and they just asked me if I would train them.
I love it.
I got Cher through the video. It was a funny story because Cher was training with Tony Cortez, who was Linda Hamilton's trainer during the Terminator movies. She got really those incredible arms. Mm-hmm. And he was training Linda Hamilton 18 hours a week. She was doing 18 hours a week with him to look like that. So Cher was doing this fitness video with me, and she was rehearsing for the video. She was training with Tony, and she was overtraining. Mm-hmm. She was training too hard. And she had some issues with her health, and she was exhausted all the time. She was having trouble performing because she was so tired. And I did the video with her, and she loved what I was doing. And so she asked me to come on tour with her because Tony wanted too much money. Mm. And she asked me how much I would charge, and I gave her what I thought was reasonable. Mm-hmm. And I trained her for an hour a day. Mm. And she couldn't believe that I could effectively do what she was taking 2.5 to 3 hours a day do with another trainer in an hour. I cut down her workout time by making it much more efficient with what I was doing. She found it more enjoyable. She was less tired and able to function at her job without being overtrained. Mm-hmm. And she enjoyed the training more. So she hired me as her trainer and I did a European tour with her. I toured with her throughout the States and completely covered Europe for a few months. Wow. While she performed. And because I was able to make her workout so efficient, so time efficient and effective, she just loved what I did.
I love that.
And, word spreads.
Yeah. I love that. That is something I feel like you see just in the gym. A lot of individuals coming in, you see them in there for hours and hours, maybe not getting results. And so to hear a story like that with a celebrity like that, I feel like I was actually watching Terminator 2 last week. So to hear that, it's a coincidence there. But very a good point here to point back to education too. Point back to being able to make a workout more efficient, more effective within a time span, and not spending 2.5 hours working out like that. That you can all the things that you mentioned, you can say, someone would be overtrained. They would be exhausted, and then those things leaking into other areas of their life. So Great story there. Keli, if you were entering the industry now, what was something that you wish you knew?
I wish I'd had the confidence, 2020 hindsight, I was not at all confident in myself as an instructor or a trainer. I had very poor self-esteem, and I wish I understood that even back then, before I had the background that I have today and the experience that I have today, I wish I'd had a bit more confidence in myself. It was really hard. I struggled with an eating disorder well into my career, and it was very, very difficult, very, very difficult, because I thought you had to look perfect. I thought you had to be perfect to be good enough, and I didn't realize that I was good enough without seeking this perfection that I was seeking at the time, and it caused so much pain, and it was just a really hard time in my life. And so I'm really grateful to have had that experience, because it made me a stronger person, but it was at the time very painful.
I think that's a great one to share, not just for the sensitivity of it, but I'm sure that many people listening to this will feel the same way, that they didn't feel confident in their instruction, and that probably hinders, or it is hindering, their ability to grow with their cueing, with their exercise instruction, with their programming, whatever that might be, because they're worried, they're overthinking it, or they're at a point where it's like, man, I just need some confidence to share that. That's great. When you came out to the States, were you here by yourself?
Yep. Didn't know anyone. I had $1,000 to my name, one bag, and I didn't know anyone. And I had a friend from Sydney, Australia, out here, and she said she was just visiting, and she said I could stay with her and her boyfriend, but that fell through. So we ended up sleeping on the floor of an empty apartment that someone she'd met at a nightclub. It was a mess. It was a mess. I found there was a build this, because this is all before the internet. This is 1990. So how do you find an apartment? Well, there was a gay roommate matching service billboard. I called the number and found someone who was looking for a roommate across the road from the gym. I didn't have a car. I bought a car for $500, a 1974 Ford Pinto. You don't get much for $500 when it comes to cars, even back then. But yeah, it was a scary time, and I really started from nothing.
I can only imagine the being in that state of mental, being in a country where you don't know anybody and trying to grow. I mean, I can only imagine that. It's tremendous to hear the growth that you've had and the career that you are still building, which is great to hear. So did you have any mentors along the way that kind of helped your career?
I really did. I met Dr. Len Kravitz early on, and even though he didn't know it, he was definitely a mentor of mine, because I loved his presenting style, and I went to a lot of his presentations. Douglas Brooks, Candace Brooks were doing a lot of presenting. I went to all of their workshops. There were a friend of mine, a gentleman who's not even in the fitness industry anymore, Joey Luna, was teaching step at Voight, and I loved his class. So I kind of based my step class on how Joey was teaching. And there were just a lot of people along the way, Ken Allen, Lynn Brick. These are people you probably don't know so much these days, because they're not so much known, but they're all, Lynn Brick and Ken Allen, and Len Kravitz is still completely out in the world. But they're all people who've won the IDEA Instructor of the Year award. They're all people who have had and still have a lot of success in their career and are either teaching at a university or are in the business side of things with gym ownership, like Lynn Brick and Victor Brick.
Mm-hmm.
But these are people whose presenting style I really related to and admired and felt a kinship to how they held themselves. They were people of great integrity.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's such a good piece to think about if you're coming into the industry or even established in the industry, is the integrity part of it. And I know that that's something that I've always tried to live by myself. So it's great to hear another Fit Pro sharing that with Dr. Kravitz. I mean, one, I've always admired him from a distance, and this might sound kind of, I might have told this story before on this podcast. And the owner of FitnessFest, Janice, she always laughs when she pokes fun at this. But I did have a fanboy moment when I first met Dr. Kravitz because I've read his research before. I've seen him lecture and on different videos. So to see and meet him in person, and he is just so genuine, such a nice person, willing to help anybody. So it's always great that another person is sharing his name, because he's one of those people. He's one of the greats, in my opinion, one of the great educators.
Absolutely.
And anybody that goes to a conference that he's at, you'll see why. You go into his lecture room, you watch him speak, but it's packed. Anytime that he lectures, it is packed because he's that great. And he fosters in the next generations of lecturers too. You can see all the graduates that, that he has helped out. He really, through his graduate program at the University of New Mexico. I mean, I know that current FitnessFest speakers are from his program, and then you see them in different IDEA articles. So it's so great to see what he does within the industry. Next question here, along the same mentorship line, what do you usually recommend for instructors that are just entering this if they want to find a mentor? What's a piece of advice that you could give them?
Well, I think first of all, go to conferences so that you can meet and listen to people and find people that you find easy to learn from. Just because someone's really knowledgeable doesn't mean that they're a great presenter. That's what I love about Dr. Len. He makes the most complicated information simple to understand because he's that smart.
Yeah.
That takes real smarts to make complicated information easy to understand. There's definitely presenters out there who are brilliant. They're very brilliant, but they don't make the information accessible because they don't break it down. And so find people that you admire, find people that you relate to, and follow them. I've followed Dr. Len, I practically stalked him over the years. And same with Jay Blarnick. Jay's a good friend of mine. Jay and I go way back. And Jay's someone of enormous integrity who has had massive success in the industry now with Apple. And he is someone who's always carried himself with an incredible amount of integrity and honesty and truth. And I think, I look for people like that because I seek that in I expect that of myself. That's something that I try and hold myself to a standard. And so I look for people to follow who have the qualities that I want to develop in myself as a human being as well as a presenter.
I like that. I like that a lot. I have a couple questions now that I don't think I've asked these to other speakers or other guests on this podcast, because I'm trying to think who else would be in a similar category. So I'm going to frame it first. So I am also a consultant for companies. That's why I host this podcast. I'm a consultant for FitnessFest and other brands, along with owning my own companies. And that's an area that Fit Pros probably never really think about. But if you're good at something and you have the time and you think about entering the fitness industry, it's often because you enjoy helping others. So being able to help them in another area of the industry, whether it's business related, creating content, whatever that might be. How did you start consulting for brands?
That's a good question. And most of it has been through referrals, through people I've worked with. For example, I knew Jay when I was teaching at Voight Fitness and Dance, and at Voight, I was in charge of the circuit training program. And I put Jay through the circuit training program, and then Jay liked how I taught and had seen me teach. And when he had opportunities, he asked me to come on board. I think it's been, for me, very organic. I've worked for companies, I've done a good job, they've liked the work I've done, they've referred me to other companies. So, you've got to start somewhere, you've got to start small and build from there. So companies like Xavier that have Bar Above and Tabata Boot Camp and all of those, that family of trainings have a really good master training program. Schwinn has a really good master training program. So does BOSU. You start at the bottom. You start, you start with small trainings and build your skills. And as your skills build, you get asked to do more and more important things. But you've got to start at the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the building and the relationships too. I think you hinted at both of those right there. The continual interpersonal relationships that help out with networking and getting the referrals there. And that's part of it too. With the consulting end of it, I consult more with technical items with the companies that even though I have a exercise science background, technology is come relatively easy to me. And I'm very fortunate for that, with being able to build websites, being able to build conferences and such. So it's a great thing to offer, because as you shared with me prior to this recording, you do many things on top of having your own personal training business, a full load of clients. You have those, you have your speaking on the circuit, you have your consulting, and oftentimes being in the industry, it's not just having one job, just a 40-hour position. You do other things to not just make ends meet, but to grow. You have all these different avenues. And I think that that's one of the unique areas of the industry, is that you're not just a personal trainer. Oftentimes you have to help out in many pieces of a business or even your own business in order for it to grow. So as we get to now my next question about the speaking circuit, we are both on the speaking circuit. I don't speak as much these days, but what is your advice for those looking to get started on the speaking circuit, just to apply, or what is that kind of unique advice you can give somebody?
Apply and be true to yourself. Be authentic. I think the mistake I see a lot of new presenters make is they try and put everything they know into one presentation. But it's a mistake. You want to edit. You want to edit yourself. Yeah. You want to make sure that it's a topic that's really intrinsically true to who you are and what's meaningful to you and what you feel passionate about, and then edit, because you don't have a lot of time. You need the information to be funneled into your topic in a way that is specialized and unique, so that you have something unique to offer instructors wanting to come and learn from you.
I like that. And it kind of hits home with me. The other day, I think we're recording this on a Thursday. On Tuesday, I had to meet up with the owner of FitnessFest, Janice, to do some recordings. And with that, we were talking about my upcoming sessions, because even though, don't get me wrong, I love talking about core training. I can't tell you how much core research I've read over the last, over my graduate program, my master's, and then my PhD. How much core research I've read, because it's a fascinating topic to me. But I thoroughly do enjoy doing business related items, and even ones that I've done on YouTube and marketing. And I actually have stopped doing many of those because unfortunately those don't get as much guests or as much signups at conferences, and I've done them at many conferences compared to core training. Core training is very popular. You've probably done core training. I think you do. I think you have. Yeah. And you just get so many more. And of course, us being speakers, we love having a full classroom. And I've gone away from the topics that I enjoy, that I feel like really will help instructors get to the next level with marketing and ways to build their business because of those lower numbers. But I will share something the one that I did at 2 different conferences talking about YouTube and how that plays into your marketing. I remember one of the nicest things, but the best feedback I ever got was somebody asked was, why don't we have more sessions on this? Why haven't we learned about this before? Like somebody walked away telling me that, why doesn't every instructor, why aren't they learning about this? And the honest answer I gave this individual was, I can't tell you the answer. I wish we were sharing more about business items, because they really do help individuals stay. But to bring this back to where I started on this, was I do need to apply back to some of the items that I do like with the business items. And I thank you for saying that, to be true to yourself, and an item that you do really feel confident about. But Keli, how did you actually get started on the speaking circuit?
I applied to present a workout for IDEA. Mm-hmm. And it was right after the share video came out, and I ended up with 500 people in the session, and it went really well. I nailed the presentation, and when you start like that with IDEA, mm-hmm. It opens a lot of doors. Yeah. So I was very fortunate, and in some ways I didn't work my way up. Mm-hmm. I started at a very high level because of the video that I'd done. Mm-hmm. It sold 1.5 million copies in 2 months. It was wildly successful.
Wow.
Went on all the talk shows. I did a world press tour for it. So I was known in the consumer market. Mm-hmm. And people took notice of my teaching style, because mm-hmm. I was already ACE certified as a group exercise instructor, personal trainer, and I also had my Australian certification. So I had a solid working knowledge of the human body and how to teach. And while it's not a degree, I'd done a lot of work on myself. Yeah. As an instructor. I'd worked really hard to get where I was. Yeah. So I was ready. I was in the right place at the right time, but I was ready. Yeah. I'd done a lot of work to be there. So I was very fortunate. That's not always the case. That's not always, people don't always have those kind of opportunities. I was just very lucky.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes that's the case, though. You're in the right place, and then you're willing to take advantage of it. And I think that's an important piece to walk away with for the listeners, is that when your opportunity comes, sometimes you got to jump at it, and you got to crush it. And that's not an opportunity that many people get. So this kind of actually ties into my next question here, because oftentimes trainers see others at conferences or others that have this title of master trainer. And I'm looking at your bio now as I'm saying this, but you're a Schwinn Master Trainer and a BOSU Elite instructor. With getting to those positions, how did you get there? And then 2, what advice can you give for instructors that want to be a master instructor for a different brand? Because I think that that's something that a lot of instructors want to do. They want to get to that next level. They want to be at conferences, helping big brands. So how can they take those steps?
Well, BOSU and Schwinn both have master trainer programs, so you can work your way up. Same with Bar Above, Tabata Bootcamp, or Xavier's programs. So you start with hosting your own trainings. It's a lot of work, and it's not glamorous. People see the finished product up on stage and they think, "Oh, that's what I want to do," but you don't see the missed flights, the lost connections, the getting home at 2 a.m. and having to get up at 5 a.m. to start your day on Monday because you need the money to pay the rent. Or pay your mortgage or whatever. It's hard work. You have to be really dedicated and you have to really want to do it because for a lot of people, you have to work your way up from the ground of just applying at the company level that, so if you're an indoor cycling instructor, apply to Schwinn. If you teach bar, apply to Bar Above. If you teach, but you've got to go and take their courses to see if you like it, to see if you relate to the way they're teaching. So, if you want to be a TRX master trainer, you have to take the TRX course and start teaching and build from there.
Yeah. I like the piece that you mentioned about make sure you like the education. That's something that whenever I speak with somebody, if I'm onboarding them for my company, is that I want to make sure that they like what our company stands for. It's the same thing if you want to be a master instructor, take their courses and make sure that you agree or that you see that their foundation is strong, that you could see yourself presenting that information. Even though a brand might be big, maybe you take the course, you're like, I don't know. Maybe that's not for me. And by taking it, though, you learn a lot about it from that end. Think about that as you're taking the class. Yeah, I see this education helping other trainers, or this education is great for trainers to be able to help more clients. So I like that you added that piece there. Keli, can you give the listeners, as we're wrapping this up, can you give the listeners some more information about yourself and where they can find you on social media?
You'll find me. My website is KeliRoberts.com, KeliRoberts.com. And my Instagram is Keli.RobertsFitPro, KELI.ROBERTS, FitPro. And I'm Keli Roberts Fitness on Facebook fan page, at Keli Roberts on Twitter. And look for me at FitFest. I'm going to be there. I also just recently published a book on small group training, and that is available on Amazon.
Nice.
And Human Kinetics. So it's a Human Kinetics textbook on a professional's guide to small group personal training. So that's something to look for if you're into small group training.
Dig it.
And yeah.
That's great.
Where you'll find me.
That's great. If you are interested in taking Keli's session at the upcoming live Fitness Fest, she has her Friday, Build a Better Butt at 12 p.m. And then on Saturday, Smart Strength for Small Group Training. So just as you were talking about with her new text, small group training on Saturday at 7. Keli, thank you for coming on the Fitness Fest podcast, sharing your journey. I love all the things you shared today, very personal stuff, background, all that kind of stuff. And so thank you for being our guest on the podcast, and make sure to check her out at the upcoming live Fitness Fest.
Thank you so much, Tyler. It's been wonderful to be a guest.